What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and unfortunately, I wish I had good news to tell you guys about this MLB lockout, but I have nothing. The MLB players and owners are nowhere closer to a deal than they were a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, it feels like, and honestly, it feels like they're regressing away from a deal as opposed to getting close to one, which means that we're probably going to have this lockout for at least a couple more weeks. And that gives us time to talk about all sorts of different and cool Red Sox content. And if you guys have anything you want me to talk about on this channel, make sure you leave it in the comment section down below. We've got a ton of free time to talk about basically anything, and I'd love to go over some of your guys' ideas. As for today's video though, it is Saturday, which means we are doing another edition of Fenway Futures. If you are new to the channel, Fenway Futures is a series on this channel where I go over a Red Sox top prospect and basically break them down. We talk about how they play, who they are, and what their impact on the Red Sox might look like in the future. As always, before we get into anything, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button, and also make sure you guys have hit that like button as well. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. As you can tell, the player that I want to talk about today is Brayan Bello. He is a right-handed pitching prospect for the Red Sox, and he's actually the first pitching prospect that I've talked about on this channel. He is originally from the Dominican Republic, and he was signed in the 2017 International Free Agent Market pool. Now, Brayan Bello is ranked 6th in Red Sox farm system prospects, but he did not make the top 100 list of MLB prospects, although he was on Keith Law's 100 MLB prospect list, and he was on a couple others. I'm not entirely sure how credited those lists are, so I usually go by the MLB one, but he did make a couple. And I think the big reason why he made anybody's top 100 list is because of that rising fastball. He can throw a fastball close to 100 miles an hour, and it's got a late rise to it, which makes it pretty lethal in the strike zone. He also has a pretty nasty changeup that is a very good put-out pitch. After a couple of rising fastballs, to drop that late breaking changeup is pretty deadly, especially in the minor leagues. He's also been working on a slider. It's getting there. It's not his number 2 pitch yet. That number 2 pitch is definitely his changeup, but he is getting there with the slider. Now, the concern with Brayan Bello is his consistency. When he hits the strike zone, he hits the strike zone well and hard, and it's really hard to hit him. But at other times, he kind of misses his locations, and his fastball can be taken deep, or his changeup can be left down the middle. And that's been a little bit of an issue as he's gone through the minors. The good news is, though, he has been improving upon that. He has been steadily improving upon his accuracy and consistency, which is a very good sign. As for his pitching scouting grades, they are down below, and it's pretty much the same story I just said, right? It's above average fastball, changeup, slider, and pretty average control. The good news with Brayan Bello is that his control last year was actually rated at a 45, and this year it's at a 50, which again speaks to the fact that it's slowly increasing. Honestly, I think the only reason he isn't on the MLB top 100 prospects list is because of that inconsistency he's had in the past. I genuinely think if he's not in the big leagues in the next couple of years, he'll crack that top 100 list. In 2021, Brayan Bello spent most of his time in AA, but he did spend some time in Single A at the beginning of the season, so I kind of combined those stats. In 2021, Brayan Bello had an ERA of 3.87, a whip of 128, 132 strikeouts, and an opponent batting average of 151. I tried looking on 5 different websites and couldn't get a consistent time when people think Brayan Bello is going to make his major league debut, so I took the average of all of them, and it ended up being late 2022. In my opinion, I actually think we might see Brayan Bello a lot sooner than that though, and it's because of our bullpen situation we've got going on. I'm sure most of you guys would agree that during the 2021 season, the bullpen was a very sore spot for the Red Sox. And going into this offseason, we lost a couple of guys. So we don't even have a full bullpen right now. And even when we did during the season, it was never consistent. And honestly, I was always a little nervous when we took out our starting pitcher, as I'm sure most of you guys were too. Brian Baio could fit right into that middle reliever setup type role, especially with his fastball that rises and his changeup that just dies. It's the perfect type of build that would be a great setup pitcher to come in the 6th or the 7th, get 5-6 outs and set up either Matt Barnes or Garrett Whitlock or whoever our closer ends up being in 2022. So in my opinion, we might actually see Brayan Bello up on the Red Sox as early as opening day 2022. On top of being billed for a bullpen, most pitching prospects don't come up and become a regular starter right away. They usually start in the bullpen. Look at Tanner Houck, look at Garrett Whitlock. Those are guys who eventually will probably be starters for us, but they did come up as relievers, and Brayan Bello could for sure fill a hole in the bullpen. I honestly don't know how he's going to do if he ever ends up getting into that starting rotation, especially if he can't get that slider to be a lethal pitch. It's really hard for guys who only have 1 or 2 really good pitches to be dominant starting pitchers, and that's mostly because of the repetition that comes from batters. They start to pick up on different movements and different hand positions and stuff like that, and if there's only 2 pitches, they can kind of start to easily tell which pitch you're going to end up throwing. So I'm not entirely sure how Brayan Bello will do as a starter, but I think it'd be a pretty damn good closer for at least 2022. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Do you think Brayan Bello would do well in the pen? Do you think he won't do well in the pen? Do you think he comes up at all in 2022? Do you think he's on the Red Sox at the end of 2022? There are a ton of different options for all these prospects, so I love listening to what you guys have to say and responding and having conversations about it. So let me know all your thoughts down below. As always, if you have made it to the end of this video, do me a favor and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You clearly enjoy the content and it helps out the channel, so why not? Also, make sure that you guys have liked the video, and for today, please, if you have any sort of ideas for the channel in this lockout, I'm really interested to see what you guys want to see on this channel, at least during the lockout, so let me know down below as well. Thank you all very much for clicking on this video, and I will see you in the next one.